Welcome to the Learning Circle, the ultimate video podcast for educators and parents who want to unleash the full potential of children. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of learning with the help of thought leaders who will share their knowledge and stories with us. This is your host Kavleen Kaur, and I'm excited to take you on this journey. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and entertained. In our previous episode, we discussed the critical role of problem-solving skills. Today, with our guest speaker, we are exploring an integrated approach to problem-solving education. We hope to share actionable takeaways that you can implement in your own teaching practice. Our guest today is Mr. Arijit Ghosh. He has rich experience in the fields of policy advocacy, academic research, teacher training, assessments and audits, curriculum design, and digital innovation. He has successfully managed several capacity building programs, mainly in the area of 21st century skills involving organizations like DFID, MacArthur Foundation, UNICEF, and multiple state governments. Mr. Arijit was awarded with the Global Teacher Award by Cambridge Foundation for his work on critical thinking skills. He is currently the Assistant Vice President at Seth Jaipuria Group. He is also the advisor for Global Citizenship Education Foundation and Persona Education UK. That was a brief about his valuable work in K-12 domain. We will leave a link to his LinkedIn profile in the podcast description and you all can visit. Welcome to our episode, sir. And thank you for
giving me so much
time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Right. So we'll start. So you have rich experience in the field of critical thinking and problem solving. That is one of my favorite subjects. And each time I have a discussion with an experienced educator, I gain a different and a very nuanced, a new nuance of these skills. So I would like to start with, your perspective on critical thinking and problem solving skills and why these skills are critical.
Sure. So, first of all, a disclaimer, I don't know if I have rich experience or not, but yes, I have done a little bit of work in the areas of critical thinking and problem solving. So basically, as in today's world, what we conventionally call the 21st century skills or the 6 C's or the 4 C's, there are various of these connotations. So critical thinking always gets featured in all of these lists, and primarily because critical thinking is something which is part and parcel of your daily life movement, daily life existence. Because when life throws a problem to you, you have to obviously think rationally, think in an ethical manner, be responsible when you are finding out the relevant solutions towards that. So all of these things are required in order to get onto those possible, probable solutions to that problem. Also, it is important that you understand if there are obviously in a live scenario, there are multiple stakeholders involved. So you need to be empathetic. You need to understand different viewpoints. You just can't be that it's my way or highway. So that kind of an attitude doesn't help. So you have to be aware of what the other person is thinking, of what should be a rational enough decision for the benefit of not only your own interests or self, but for others as well. Another very important point over here is any problem, again, a live problem when you experience, many of times that these are not experienced before. So these are new ones. The challenges are always new. It might have some kind of with years and years of experience, maybe a part of the problem you might have solved in some other scenario, but that particular context, that particular time is absolutely new. So these are also called non-routine. So these are not routine that you have a set formula to solve these.
Right.
So all these what I mentioned are actually the components of critical thinking and problem solving. So I hope I could make myself clear that while solving a certain problem which you are facing in your daily life, you need to take consideration of these nuances, these aspects of critical thinking. So hence, it's a very important skill.
Right. Two key points you mentioned, sir, that, first of all, it is very important to understand the problem before we even attempt to solve it, because they are new. We may not have solved them earlier. And second aspect is like, to solve a problem, we need to have a collaborative and empathetic approach, where, and this approach is normally the children in school, they work on their individual assignments, they do some collective project works, but it is very limited. So from a school environment going into the real world scenario, they need both these skills to understand the problem and to be able to work in a collaborate environment, understand what the other person is saying. So that was, like I said, another nuance of problem solving that, we are talking about here. So, that also brings me to to another related aspect, that problem solving also helps in development of these so-called soft skills, that collaboration, communication, empathy. So it's not just the academic, the core subject skills they help, but also these, additional skills. I hope, my takeaway is correct.
Yeah, so I just want to put add a small point, which is more of a terminology related. Yes, there's a lot of papers, literature, which call these skills as soft skills. I personally, it's an absolute personal take. I like to call them as human skills. So, according to me, there are no soft or hard. These are very critical skills, and these are more to do with human behaviors and human association. So, I think if we call them human skills, I think it just gives it that realistic element to it more, because
Right.
what again many times what happens is the moment we call it soft skills, said okay, that can be taken care of at any time, but human skills are required at every juncture, right from a pre-primary kid to a full grown working professional.
Right, that's very true. Right from pre-primary to a working professional, human skills are required at every stage and in every profession. There's no profession which, you can just work in silo alone. So yes, that is a wonderful point. Thank you for sharing that, sir. So we have now established why problem solving skills are critical, both from the academic perspective and from from these human skills that you have mentioned. So now, how to teach these skills in school? What are the different approaches we can deploy to teach these skills in an effective manner?
Well, my take is I don't think you can actually teach in the right, means you cannot have a critical thinking class.
Hmm.
Many organizations, and I might be ruffling up a few feathers here, many organizations, or let's say some of the schools also have a separate, let's say, critical thinking class. I beg to differ from that approach, because according to me, anything and everything that you do involves critical thinking. Without critical thinking, you just can't walk a single step. So also, when life throws a problem at you, the life will not say that okay, this is only a maths problem, so use your experience of maths in solving this, or this is only a social science problem, you don't have to cater to your language skills or science skills or any other skills, only solve this problem with social skills. This doesn't work that way. So when life is throwing problems at you, you have to factor in your overall knowledge and experience which you have garnered over X number of years in order to provide a certain solution. So I think the first key approach again, not to teach, but just to support or guide students towards the process of critical thinking, would be an integrated approach, integrated studying approach. Now, when it comes to integration, let me give you a little bit of theory, just possibly a minute or so. So when we have a separate individual vertical of subjects, when we are teaching only, when we are teaching learning only isolated subjects, those are disciplinary level of integration, which is basically no integration. So it is students learn concepts and skills separately in each discipline. Okay. The first level of integration will be multidisciplinary. Now, what is multidisciplinary? So students learn concepts and skills separately in each discipline, but in reference to a common theme. So let's say if you take water, so in science, you are studying the properties of water, whereas in, let's say, social science, you are, let's say, studying about what impact does it happen if there is, what impact on agriculture or crops it happens if there is scarcity of water. So you're still studying about topics related to water, but with a common theme, but these are separately you are studying. You're studying something in science class, you're studying something in social science class, maybe in English class or in a Hindi class, you are studying a poem or a prose where the central message is around water. So these are all separate. Then the next level of integration comes interdisciplinary. So interdisciplinary is students learn concepts and skills from two or more disciplines which are tightly linked so as to deepen knowledge and skills. So if whatever you're writing in, whatever you're studying in science, are you able to apply that in another context to to further benefit your learning, to further enhance your learning? That is your interdisciplinary. The highest level of integration is something called transdisciplinary. Now, the difference between interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary is transdisciplinary is done by undertaking real world problems. Okay. Or while handling real projects, students apply knowledge and skills from two or more disciplines that help them to shape their learning experience. So as you understand, from disciplinary to multidisciplinary to interdisciplinary to transdisciplinary, the levels of integration increase. So I think that is one fundamental thing which we need to uh, understand over here, that what can we do in our classroom setting. So first thing is provide real life context to children. Children learn better if you relate to certain things which they are observing or they are reading about it or they are already aware of it. Then they can relate to the things much better. The second point over here is now how to, so this is kind of what needs to be done. The second thing is how you can implement this. So there is a very fundamental difference between projects and project based learning. So many schools, what we do in our education system, we are very good in handing out projects to students. So what is the fundamental difference between project and project-based learning? Projects are done at the end of the learning process. So you have learned a certain module and the children either do an individual project or they can do a group project as well. Typically, let's say a scrapbook, or let's say making something what you have studied, or writing a newspaper report or an article. These are all projects. On the basis of what you have read, you are incorporating your understanding in the project. Project based learning, the challenge starts from day one when you are not even aware of the content, and a project based learning approach continues for a longer duration, for a longer period, and children try to start contributing in what they are supposed to do in small bites as and when they gain the knowledge of that particular component as well. So when they are studying every class or every period which they are studying, they are adding some new aspects of or new aspects of the concept, which is something new to them. They understand that, incorporate that in the real life challenge which is being posed at them. And project based learning, another important thing is, since it is real life related and there's a problem given, you need to create a prototype. Now, a prototype may be on paper, maybe something in 3D which is tangible. Either way, okay? But you need to create a prototype. So that is again very important. Another very key element to project based learning is sharing. So once your prototype and everything is ready, you need to share your solution with others. Now, to begin with, you can first share it with not only your own class, but maybe other sections in the same school or some other grade in your school, and see whether you can convince them, who are kind your schoolmates, or let's say batchmates. You can convince them of the solution. If you are able to convince them of the solution which you are kind of proposing, then you go to the next level depending on the nature of the problem which you are trying to solve. So again, in the crux, what I'm trying to say is, this is much more realistic. So a lot of realism is involved over here. And then when you are able to do this, the learning is also extremely enriched. What you said at the beginning, that the aspects of critical thinking, the aspects of collaboration, the aspects of working within a team, and in the process respecting each other's opinion, being empathetic, having good listening skills, all of these come into the picture, and that is what we call holistic education. So I think these two major points to begin with when you are trying to make some kind of a difference with critical thinking.
Yes, a very wonderful point. So you shared what should the approach be and how, and your communication about why project based learning is more important than project learning is really wonderful. And I would like to add that I think in project based learning, the student is more engaged, because rather than the teacher teaching him the concept, he or she is doing the experiment, creating the project, and learning as part of that process. So a learning is more engaging, and it is also deeper, because it's more hands on, and it's done by self. So project based learning is it ticks all the boxes on these counts. And that is why that should be followed, rather than teaching a concept and then asking the children to create a project on that concept, because that also has its value, but that is more of the assessment of what a student has already learned,
True,
rather than
true, true.
yeah, rather than
Yes.
giving him or her an opportunity to learn on his own. So that was a wonderful point. And so you have shared an overall strategy how to devise the pedagogy, and also you've shared a couple of case studies on this. I would request you to share more examples, more case studies, because and also talk about challenges that maybe they are in the integrated approach, related to teachers not being trained. There may be less time to do all these project based learning, because there is a curriculum, a syllabus to cover, and other such factors. So there are challenges, and there are some ground realities. So how to overcome them to effectively implement this integrated approach?
Sure. So I'll take one thing at a time. So you asked me for a couple of more examples. So let me just quickly give you maybe a couple of examples, and then we can move to the other topic. So, for example, and I'm trying to give the examples which is easily doable by school students. Okay. So every school has got a dedicated water tank to cater to the drinking needs and other needs of water. Okay. So, can children get together and do a project to understand the water consumption every day and figure out a solution as to the water which is getting wasted, how to localized in a localized manner, how to conserve that water and make use in a different manner, number one. And number two is also the consumption of the water, how better, I wouldn't say consumption, it's basically the outflow of water, how can be minimized. So many a times in schools you will see that taps are running open, okay,
Yeah.
or there is young children are kind of playing with water and wasting during the breaks. So a kind of solution which is real to them. First, find out what is your on a daily basis. What is an average water outflow, and then are there methods to further conserve water? So this is a kind of a real life challenge which you can provide to the students, which they are facing every single day. Okay. The second thing is another problem, especially the schools which are on narrow lanes, is an issue of traffic and the vehicular movement. So can the students design some kind of a prototype to regulate vehicular movement during busy hours and check the average time taken by a vehicle from, let's say, 1 kilometer radius to reach the school, and how you can reduce it and give a target, let's say reduce it by 50%. So to travel 1 kilometer, if you're taking 10 minutes in front of the school from 1 kilometer radius to the school gate, what is the strategy which you can design to bring down that time to 5 minutes, let's say? Does it mean more guards on the road to streamline this? Or do you have a dedicated parking space, a separate parking space? Or let's say the school buses moving to via another route? I don't know what the solution. That again will be different for different schools because it depends on the location, it depends on the map, and so on and so forth. If let's say there's one more example, if you let's say go to the if you relate with the community, okay, now we know that the open areas, the open parks are becoming more and more a rare commodity. Okay, those of us are, let's say, privileged enough to reside in communities, you still have a little bit of greenery left, but mostly there are no open parks. Okay, so how do you, and also you will find that young children, and mainly young children and elders, do take a walk early in the morning or in the evening. Now, depending on where you are in your locality, can you design a prototype for a safe walking space of these, especially these two genre of people? So one young children and one elderly men and women. Okay. So then again, it will come as a prototype. How do you design that? And then maybe you go and have a chat with your local counselor and see what help he or she can provide to you. So these are some of the real life projects which you can take up to solve these problems. These are, again, as I said earlier, these are not routine problems. These are non-routine. You have to understand your context. You have to understand the problem. You need to understand the challenges, and then and it is not something which you can do alone. You
Right.
have to work in a team. So that's where all the critical thinking comes in.
And
So
these are
the second. Yeah,
These are also, sir, what you have earlier shared, that these examples, the three examples, each one of them are something you have mentioned as transdisciplinary, because there are
exactly.
elements of different subjects in each one of them. And it would,
Absolutely.
yes, and it is also a project based learning, because there is no defined solution. Their children are creating their own solution. The solution of two children may differ, on multiple aspects, so they are learning as they are creating these projects.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the next you asked, I think, about the challenges, right? What are the challenges? So one thing when I was describing this, I think one thing you have understood it, that it takes time. It takes patience on the part of the teacher.
Mm.
Okay. So time is one very critical aspect. You cannot uh, start looking into the syllabus and say that no, I need to complete the syllabus, and you rush with things. So in order to do deep learning, you have to look into the curriculum and not the syllabus. So this is very, so what we kind of uh, make an error, mainly we focus on the syllabus and not on the curriculum. If we start focusing on the curriculum, then this interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary modes of teaching will come more naturally to us. Okay, so that is one. The second area is when we are into project based learning, there is a requirement of a certain school to create a platform for teachers to communicate to each other, for teachers to partner with one another. This is something which is hugely lacking in our education system. Okay. Uh, if you and I share the same staff room, I'm sorry to say we will know all the secrets of maybe our personal life, but we will hardly talk about a child in the class where, let's say, I'm finding it difficult to tackle. For you, maybe it's not a problem. Or let's say if we are teaching the same subject, maybe I will not ask you that okay, please share how do I teach this certain topic, because I am finding it difficult with my level of explanations children are not understanding, because maybe a vulnerability creeps in,
Mm.
maybe some kind of complexity creeps in, that if I say that I don't know this, then what will the other person think about me?
Right.
So these are some humanistic challenges. So I think we need to, in a school ecosystem, and this is where the role of the leaders become very important. You need to provide a supportive environment so that there is no threat to this kind of a discussion. So what we call as a professional learning community, that is something which we need to establish in every school. So we need to work together, let's say 6 or 7 teachers in a group, in a core group, being responsible of a certain issue or a certain domain or a certain area. It may not be every time, it may not be a problem which we are addressing, but 6 or 7 teachers working together, I collectively, I think adds a lot of value. I'm just reminded of a research by Australian educationist John Hattie and his famous visible learning research. So there are over 240 indicators which impact student learning, and collective teacher efficacy is one of the highest indicators to impact student learning, which means that if teachers can work together to achieve the common good of the students, then I think it positively impacts student learning. So they need to have a shared vision, they need to have a shared purpose, and we would see wonders in our schools and classrooms. So these are some of the challenges which I think uh, which are there, which act as barriers towards project based learning.
Right, and you have also mentioned ways in which they can be overcome by,
Yeah.
having a sense of ownership, a shared vision, and
And
also
also planning. Also
planning.
planning. So
Yes,
the more meticulous your plans are,
right,
the lesser are the chances that you will face any trouble, any problem, any hurdle.
right,
So you
right.
need to plan to the T.
Right. So there is, there has to be a strategy from the ownership team, and then, a planning from the execution team to actually implement these plans in a collaborative manner, having a shared vision. So that was
Correct.
a useful point, and I think the educators, also the group of educators, I think when facing such challenges, we should wear our problem thinking hat, and you think and then think from that perspective, actually apply the skills that we are trying to impart to the students, right? And this, you have mentioned these three case studies, and that brings me to another topic, which is one of my favorite, and that is sustainable development. There is a lot of discussions on all levels, global levels, on sustainable developments, and then we go back to the schools and we ask children to we teach them why pollution is bad, why you should not pollute, and all such things. But we know that we are facing a lot of challenges in actually implementing these sustainable development practices. So I think it is important that we involve our children also in creating these solutions, rather than just telling them the do's and the don'ts. We involve them, we give them projects to come up with things, like you said, to prevent water wastage, prevent water outflow, right? So involving the children into this, rather than just teaching them what it is all about, I think that would be uh, we may be surprised by some of the solutions these youngsters come up with, because after all, they are more creative
100%.
than us, right? So
100%.
right, so some of the
So SDGs are something which are really close to my heart. So you'll be happy to know that at say Jaipuria schools this year, our focus theme area is on sustainable development goals. So we have trained all our teachers, around 2000 plus teachers, on sustainable development goals at the beginning of the session. We have trained them. And throughout the year, we will be having projects. We will be having our lesson plans are kind of mapped to SDGs wherever it is aligned to. So to just give them the awareness. So I think the first critical area to begin with is something called flip the script. So flip the script is actually it's not a terminology which we have coined or something. It is United Nations SDG campaign of action, SDG action campaign. They started off, I think, if I remember correctly, it's November 2022. Very recently, it has started out. Flip the script. So it's basically, it talks about how do you change the narrative from a negative connotation to a positive connotation.
right, right,
Okay, so that I think is the, because whatever we do, it starts from the mindset. So mindset is extremely important. So first and foremost is we need to first change the mindset. So mindset is, once we take care of the mindset, I think half the battle is won.
yes,
So I will just give you a few examples, and this is from um, our teachers. When we did this workshop, we did an activity of flip the script, that create your own flip the script and share it with us. So I'll just read out a few to you. Um, it is our addiction to fossil fuels that will break us. So now this is a kind of negative, we can't help ourselves, this kind of a meaning. It is our addiction to fossil fuels that will break us. This is flipped to, it is us that will break our addiction to fossil fuels.
Oh, interesting and empowering.
Yes.
Yeah, just
So
the
from negative
change of
to positive.
words. Yes.
It's only change of words. So
Yes.
there is no addition of new words.
Right.
There is no deletion of words.
Right. Right.
Okay. Another one, I'll give an example. Think your efforts don't matter much. Don't think much. Your efforts matter.
Mm. Right. Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So there are many of these examples already. So I think if we can do the flip the script in a nice manner, I
Yeah.
think the narrative will be important. So I will just tell you one from the UN actual flip the script campaign. Women and girls can't. Uh, women and girls, just a minute. Women and girls can't change the world without help. The world can't change without women and girls' help.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So
You can really feel the difference, you yourself, the power you feel when you hear the second one, right? So
absolutely.
it's like I said, it is empowering.
The climate crisis will end humanity in our lifetime. This change too. Humanity will end the climate crisis in our lifetime.
Yes, yes. So this is
So it gives
interesting. Yeah.
such a uplift. It gives
Yes.
such a powerful message that yeah, definitely it's in our hands to bring about this change. So I
And
think this is something which we need to focus on.
right. And it would be interesting to see how we can do these activities with the children. Of course, like you mentioned, it is being done with the
Absolutely.
teachers. That's the beginning. But eventually, we can, create lesson plans and activities around this principle for children also.
Correct. So I'll give you an example which the children can do as part of an integrated learning activity and exercise. It is not a project-based learning; it's an integrated learning. Okay, though it has got a very strong real connect as well. So this is when you are integrating, let's say, science and language, and this is for primary grades. Anything from 3, 4, 5 can easily do this activity. So children, whether you cannot deny, every child watches television. Some watch for 30 minutes, some watch for 3 hours, but
Right.
they watch television.
Yes.
And the best part of watching television, apart from cartoons for the primary grades, would be the advertisements. Okay. So how about doing an activity on advertisements? So ask students to examine advertisements when they are watching television at home and specifically look for advertisements related to food items.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
And then ask students to list down at least 5 advertisements in a format. Say that you write the food item, the name of the food item for which the advertisement is. What are the features of the advertisement? What do you observe in the advertisement? So the observation is the key. And in the third column, you write whether this food item is healthy or unhealthy.
Hmm. Right.
Okay.
Right.
List down at least 5. If you can list down 7, 8, fine. And then critically evaluate. This is where your critical thinking comes. Critically evaluate the best and worst advertisement according to them. Which one did they like the most? Which one they did not like the most? Not dependent on the food item, but on the quality of the advertisement. Okay, this is the second part of the activity. Then this is to be done at home. Then they come back to class and discuss the findings with the entire group in class, because everyone will bring a different set. Some will definitely be overlapping, but many will be different. Evaluate which types of food feature mainly in the advertisements. Now, if you and I reflect, we will possibly come to realize that mostly the fast food items, the
Yes.
advertisements are more.
Right. Right.
Okay. So the next question is there a reason for this? So evaluate which types of food features mainly in the advertisements. Is there a reason for this? Okay, and then you get into a critical discussion. And then the English part, so all of these will involve a lot of critical writing as well. But to top it up, encourage students to write a script for an advertisement of their favorite food.
Okay. Okay. Right.
Script writing.
Right.
It's not taught in this class.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not taught anywhere.
Right.
But then when they move on and then you don't know they will become a script writer, some of them. Where do they get the skill from then?
Yes. Yes.
So we can do these. So this is just one example which I thought I can share with you. And again, this, if you want to relate it with your SDG, this is very much related to goal number 3, good health and well-being.
Right, right, right. And it involves multiple subjects like we have been talking about, with a
Absolutely.
bit of economics also thrown in,
Absolutely.
Fast foods have more advertisement because of obviously the economic aspects. So multiple
Absolutely.
subjects they are working on. And as you mentioned, writing, the script writing. So I think two key skills. You first mentioned about the observation, observe the ads. So observation and writing, I think these are two skills which are fundamentally required by everybody. Having
Yeah.
these skills, being good in these skills is beneficial in every career profession, right? So we are giving children opportunity to practice these skills using these project based learning
Yeah.
examples. And you also, this particular case study is one where there can be a lot of involvement from the parents also, right?
Absolutely.
Because I believe that learning never ends in school. It continues at home. It should continue at home. And
Yeah.
if parents are involved in this activity, for example, they are also helping their children develop critical thinking skills, observation and writing skills. And there are healthy discussions going on at home. And also, as a parent, I think if a child observes these ads and see the nutritional value and all that, there would be less these tantrums and all about eating healthy. And we parents will face
Absolutely. Yes.
resistance in
Yes.
implementing these.
Yes.
Because normally what we do is we tell them, eat this because it's good for you. We say it's good for you, right? That's not the right approach. Let them find out on their own, why they should eat the item that you are putting out on the table.
So reflection is very, very key. So another huge positive or benefit of project-based learning is it gives you an option to do reflection. So
Yes.
reflection is key.
Right. Yes, that is also a key. Yes, which project-based learning you think that this solution will work, you implement it and see it is not working, and then you reflect
Yeah,
and
exactly.
refine, and you go on from there. So yeah.
And everything is an experience. It is not that your solution. You very rightly said that your solution may not work. Okay. So everything there is nothing called right or wrong over here. So there is
Right.
no failure.
Right.
Everything is an experience.
Right.
So
Right.
your experience, that same experience, when you communicate to a larger audience, as I said, sharing is one of the key components of PBL, project-based learning. Then you are helping them. Then that larger audience or that larger population will avoid the kind of procedure which you have taken. So that's also a benefit to them,
Right.
that they know that, okay, in this my localized context, this will not work.
Right.
Maybe it will work in a totally different context.
Right. Right.
Maybe.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, there's no right or wrong to anything. It's
Right.
all about the experience.
And since we are talking about context right now, you have experience with the private education system and also our public education system with the various state governments. So I would request you to share, your perspective on what is the state of these problem solving skills education in these two different sectors. They may be having different challenges, and the resources may also be different, which is available at their disposal. So from the problem solving education perspective, how share your inputs on these two different sectors.
Sure. So I think the national education policy is a great asset to the country. Okay, what we have been hearing over past few decades only in educational conferences and papers and maybe write-ups or from the West, prominent educationists speaking about it. The NEP says it all. Okay.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
the challenge is how do you implement it
Mm.
in the right spirit, in the true spirit. But having said that, the start has been made with the documentation of the policy. Even when you talk about the assessment system, yes, the assessment format is also changing. You have to give it time. So the competency based assessments are coming more and more into the reality. And so we need to move out consciously from the practices of rote learning, which has been plaguing our education system, I don't know, for centuries. Okay. So these are some of the areas where we are standing. But I'm extremely positive and excited about the current times because I see that there's a lot of effort which is being made in that particular direction for the reality to move forward. So the now it is up to the private players and the government body to work on the implementation. Now, what you said about the resources, there is a yes or and a no, I would say, because to do PBL again, it comes down to planning. You can actually plan PBL with minimal resources. Okay, gone are the days when even if I talk about the rural villages, the rural parts of our country, it's not that the internet penetration is not there. A huge number of people have got access to mobile, if
Yeah.
not a computer at home. Okay. Also, you will find that the television has reached households. I don't know the exact percentage, but it's a large population where television has reached to the households. So just the um, previous example which I gave about the food advertisements, you don't need any other resource. It's just about the ad.
Right.
Okay, so that can easily be done. But the thing which I gave an example about the working on the let's say the the park which I was giving you an example
Mm.
earlier
Yes.
for the elderly.
Mm.
Now that was more in a city context. It can be in a village context as well. So in a rural setting where the government schools are, and by government schools I'm kind of relating to the rural environment. Okay, because the city environment more or less I think we are managing again with planning and all, it will come. So I'll come to the city concept in a moment. But I think it's more about having that planning, that mindset, and that idea that okay, this is possible. Something is possible, and learning happens beyond the textbooks.
Right.
Is something
Right.
is some which we need to focus on. So that is one area. The second area which I would like to add over here is the need for professional development.
Mm.
Now, the kind of ideas which I have shared, uh, it would be ideal if all teachers in every school can come up with these kind of plans of intervention. So, plans of intervention, coming up with the plans of intervention is really important.
Right.
Okay, so we need to invest in professional development. We need to be more meticulous in our planning. We need to know what we are doing for the benefit. And as I said earlier, also move away from syllabus, focus on the curriculum, and focus on learning beyond textbooks. Like another with regards to NEP, NEP talks about 10 bagless days.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes.
That's again, I think, fantastic avenue, a fantastic platform to kind of practice something like this.
Right.
Okay, they can go and observe their own surrounding and identify if there is an issue which they can improve further, or they would want to add a completely new benefit to that particular locality and
That's
then
a
work towards.
That's a wonderful example, sir, because we have talked about, there is project learning, and then there is project based learning where we are, introducing the concept through a project. And then we have gone one step further that, we are asking them to to observe and choose the project themselves, So that
Yeah.
again brings in a much, much deeper, level of understanding
So
to
engagement
children.
is the key. Until and unless you engage
Yeah,
children
right.
in their learning, uh, I'm sorry, it will still continue to remain rote learning then.
Yes, yes, that's very true. If they are engaged, they will learn on their own. You know, I
Exactly.
I always, see that I've seen the children around me. Nobody teaches them how to use a mobile phone, right? Nobody teaches them how to actually go and open a Netflix or an Amazon Prime on their TV. They learn it by themselves by observing
Absolutely.
or experimenting because they are engaged in that. That activity engages them. So if we can have similar engaging activities that at school, there'll be, then the challenge of engagement would be addressed, right? And so you
Correct.
mentioned about, some competency based assessments being designed. So that is very heartening to know, because skills like problem solving skills, it's very difficult to actually assess, the development of these skills, especially in a very short span of, let's say, a semester or a quarter, right? It's mainly development of competency, which may take some time and which may not be very obvious from the traditional kind of assessments that we have. So,
Correct.
if you can share some inputs on that, because it's very important. A lot of time we don't implement something because we don't know how to measure the output, right? So if
Correct.
yeah,
Correct. So I think this comes from again from the NEP. NEP talks about benchmark assessments, and CBSE has already piloted SUFFLE. So SUFFLE stands for Structured Assessment for Analyzing Learning.
right,
Okay, for grades 3, 5, and 8 in the subjects of English, maths, and science. Okay, so what basically the competency-based assessments are? These are uh, these don't follow any questions from the book. This is your conceptual understanding, what at that age level, what you're observing, whether you are able to follow that or not. That is something which is called a competency based learning. Like if you're aware, the Pisa assessments, which are being conducted by OECD, they follow a competency based assessment framework, though it is for 14, 15-year olds, but the competencies are very well defined. For example, in English, one of the competencies can be inferential reading. So, inferential reading is something which is not taught in our class
right,
in any grade.
right,
Okay. But when you are reading something, you are expected to do a deep reading. You
right,
need to infer certain things from the reading. So, are we doing that? When are we doing that? So what are the requirements, or how do we teach or support inferential reading? So I think these are critical areas where students also means apart more than students, the teachers also need guidance. So when I was talking about professional development, the teachers need to be first trained in these kind of competencies so that they can guide students better in the classrooms as well. For example, when we talk about science, explain phenomena scientifically is one of the competencies under Pisa. Okay. So which are those questions which you can explain the phenomena scientifically? So these are the competence. What does phenomena mean? How do you how do you teach that? How do you kind of uh, like modeling is one simple technique of achieving that. So how do you do that? What is the importance? Now again, a narrative is that science labs are typically meant for grades 9 onwards. Below grade 9, we don't need to take anyone to the lab, which is so very wrong.
Yes.
Because unless you kind of model something, an experimental setup, today's students are not even capable of looking into an experimental setup and saying that what are we trying to achieve. Why? Because in every textbook, when there is an experimental setup, the first thing which is written, you will see is written aim. And then things required, procedure, observation, inference. This
Right,
is the
right,
format of your experimental setup.
right.
We are missing on a very important scientific skill, which
Hmm.
is prediction.
Right,
By
right,
looking into a setup, can you predict that what this experiment is going to be like, or what are we trying to find out?
right, right,
So these are your competencies.
right, right.
So you will be happy to know that in our schools, from last year, we have started benchmark assessments for grades 3, 5, and 8.
Oh, wonderful.
And we follow the PISA framework. Even for so the competencies remain same even for grade 3, but obviously the items are different. We cannot give the PISA test items to the children because those are for 15-year-olds. And we do it twice a year. We do it once in at the beginning of the year. We in fact have the test on 27th, 28th, and 29th of April. And then we do one in I think January, end of January, so that we can also show some amount of movement, some amount of shift in the students in these competencies. But it is not only the two assessments, two rounds of assessments that we do, we also train our teachers in these competencies. So,
Hmm.
professional development is a very, very key critical area to support our teachers. As I said, not many of these competencies are so called outlined in our regular curriculum and regular
Right,
textbooks.
right,
It is
right.
important to support our teachers accordingly as well.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, sir. It's a very key point that, these competencies are not given due focus in our regular curriculum. And in fact, I have taken a note to, discuss these with you, invite you again onto our forum and discuss these two
Sure.
important aspects of professional development and assessment, because I think these need, a lot of discussions. And, you have been sharing not just the theory, but the real case studies and examples of how these things can actually be implemented, and also how they are being implemented, in your school and elsewhere also. So thanks for sharing that these things, sir. So we have had wonderful discussions on several points, quite a few takeaways, for all the educators and also for parents on how to continue this sort of problem based learning, including helping them develop their observation skills, writing skills, the skills of prediction, skills of seeing the interconnection between various subjects. So these can all be done both in school and at home. And sir, I just take another few minutes of your time, and we have a few, I would say some absurd questions, but I always think that
Okay.
in absurd in talking about the absurd, we may get some insight. So we've talked about problem solving skills, and we always focus on getting the right solution. But in your experience, have you ever implemented yourself, or you have seen your students implement a solution which seemed silly at first but it worked, you know so a
So
silly
many,
solution with.
I think many a time. So long time back, means I started my career as a teacher. So I've been not in a very structured manner, but I've been doing these discussions with my students as well. Sometimes the solution apparently did not look like it has got enough meat to it. So maybe I raise my reservation that are you sure you're going to go ahead with something like this? And the clarity which a child possess
Yeah.
is mind blowing, is
Yes.
absolutely mind blowing.
Right.
So the child has said that, yes, sir, don't worry, I'll come back in a week's time and I'll show you the next iteration.
Right.
And from within a week's time, it completely changes.
Right.
So it's wow. So maybe the vision, the forevision which a child has when a child actually puts his or her teeth into something
Right.
is much more as compared to many of us adults as well. Yeah, I have been pleasantly surprised many a times as well.
Right. So, this is an important concept. The children surprise us all the time. And the point is not to put any constraints on their thinking, if we, like while giving a project, if we give them directions that, this is what the outcome should be, and, this is the prototype, how it should be, then their creativity is limited. So, I am often taken by surprise a lot by, these little children. Next question, sir, would be, we live in a time where we have a lot of comforts and a lot of resources, and there are global discussions happening on everything. But there are equal number of problems also, challenges also. So, what is this one problem that, if you were given the powers of a superhero whose skill is problem solving, what is one problem you would like to solve?
I think uh, I would like to address this to the parents. I think many of us in these days have just one or two kids. Maybe that's the reason where we kind of tend to give instant gratification to our children. Okay,
Hmm.
so
Right.
doing something and it comes as some as a tangible gift.
Hmm.
So maybe if we can be a little bit more, every parent loves his or her child the most, no doubt about that. I have a 7-year-old daughter and she is the whole world to me. Okay, so there is no denying that fact. But the thing is, are you holding back and actually making them realize that you have to earn? Nothing in world comes
Hmm.
easy. You have to earn for everything. That's one. And number two is, I would say what I did with my daughter, right, means my wife and I, both of us did with our daughter from a very early age, making her realize the difference between the two words want and need.
Hmm. Right.
So I think that is very important, and kind of it backfires to us sometimes now. Like the other day, I was researching. I want to buy a new phone for myself. So she sees I'm doing that on my laptop. I'm researching. Papa, what are you doing? I said I'm researching for a new phone. I want to buy
But
a new
your
phone.
old one is working
Why do you want
fine.
to buy a new phone? You already have a phone. Do you want it? Or do you need it? I said, okay, fine. It's a. I felt so happy
Yes.
hearing that from her. I said, chalo. So it has kind of she has internalized it
Yes.
very well.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah. So this is something I would say. I don't know superpower or not, but this would be my advice to all parents.
Wonderful, wonderful advice, sir. I think it's really the need of the hour. If I can share, my son is going to be 8 years old soon, and one thing which I have learned as a parent is that I resist my urge to pitch in and help him with anything he's struggling with. Right? It may be his homework, his learning, or a project. He's making a Lego model. He's struggling with something. So I general tendency is to fix it for them, right? But in doing so,
Correct.
I think we rob them of an opportunity to learn on their own. So I, as a parent, am learning not to do that, and let him develop his debugging and
Also,
problem solving skills.
in addition to the learning which you said, I would add another key word is happiness of
Yes,
self-discovery
this
and
satisfaction.
self-achievement. The
Right,
satisfaction, the happiness is tremendous. You can't
right,
now your child will not be more happy if you do it as compared to the kind of happiness which he will achieve if he does it himself.
right,
So
right,
so that's very very key.
right,
Great.
right. So, sir, last question. What you have shared several messages for the parents, for the educators. Any key message for the children out there? The younger children, may be listening with their parents to this, but the older one may be listening on their own. So, any key message, based on your long journey in the education field and as a parent.
So I'll share one word which I share with my daughter very often is explore. That's it. So
Yes.
nothing is impossible. It's there nothing in this world which you cannot achieve. Explore, absorb. Learning is not only within textbooks. You learn from every moment. So cherish every moment of your life and explore whatever life has to offer to you.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful life advice, sir. Yes. So, thank you so much, sir, for sharing your insights, sharing the
Thank you.
case studies, and, sharing the encouragements for all the educators out there, talking about professional development, the changes which are already happening in the education sector, and also sharing your insights as a parent. I think it's our, we all play multiple roles, and, they are all interconnected at different levels. Right, so talking about this holistic way of learning is important.
Thank
Right.
you very much. The pleasure has been mine.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening to this session. I hope our discussion has been valuable for you with insights and takeaways which you can implement at your end. In case you have any queries for Mr. Arijit, please share with us. And do subscribe to our channel, The Learning Circle.